Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Daniel Hendrick Experience. I'm super glad you're here and super excited about our guest today, which I'll tell you why in just a second. Hey, for those of you who are new to the podcast, I would just encourage you go to danielhendrick.com, click on the podcast link, and there you can subscribe. And if you would like, you could actually be a subscribe member. It's only $3 a month, and it really helps us. Also, there on my website, you're going to see my life story. It's called Know You Know. And if you click on that link, it'll take you to Amazon and you can pick up a copy of my life story of being an opera singer and losing my voice and getting it back. So, with that said, today we have a very special young Bari tenor who is Mexican Venezuelan and is presently in San Diego, which is where I met him many, many years ago. His name is Bernardo Bermudez. He's been praised for his exceptional vocal range. His rep and roles have expanded to recently include Pleasure in the World premiere of The Romance of the Rose by Kate Soper, as well as both the roles of Laurentino and Mark in Cruzar la Cara de la Luna and Don Jose in Carmen, among others. He has had the opportunity to perform in a variety of productions in concert with esteemed companies such as San Diego Opera, the Los Angeles Opera, Long Beach Opera, going on with opera companies all over the country. Notable roles include Diego Rivera in Frida, Figaro in The Barber, Stanley Kowalski in A Streetcar Named Desire, Danilo in The Merry Widow, and the title role of Don Giovanni, etc., etc. I'm super proud of this young man. I saw him in San Diego when he was first getting his start. And without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's bring in the wonderful Bernardo Bermudez. Ooh, Bermudez Studio.
Papa, how are ya?
What's up, my boy?
Good. How you doing?
Muy buenos dias.
Buenos dias. Where are you guys at now? Are you in Arizona or where?
Yeah, but not for long, man. The house is on the market. Uh,
Wow.
got all the videos and photos done, so maybe tomorrow it's up. And
Wow.
maybe next month I'm a Mexican.
Everything you want it to be.
Exactly right.
Technically, what you are already.
Yeah, that's why they call me a burrito, because I'm white on the outside but brown on the inside.
Hey, Pop.
Listening to what you've been doing and your equation of voice reminds me of my off-air discussion with Gino Quilico.
Okay.
Because he said, his father was a super famous baritone, Louis Quilico. And he said that throughout his life, his father had this huge, big baritone voice, and Gino was more lyric, and people constantly told him he was a tenor.
Yeah.
And he said, so I just kind of kept my head down and said, call me whatever you want. I'm just going to sing the roles that fit me.
Yeah. And technically, that's exactly what I'm doing. You know,
Well, your speaking voice has changed too. I can hear it's got a lot more body in it now.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's just like you said, like over the years, it's just going to keep growing. It's going to keep doing what it wants to do. You just have to kind of go with it. I feel that sometimes we just, because it's like my voice is so unique in the sense. I mean, it's not unique in the sense of like there's a lot of other singers that have the same ability. They have kind of a good baritone and a good tenor. It's just that you just sit kind of in this in between place that I think Michael Spires is the perfect example of a person that finally said, why are we, you know, putting ourselves in boxes and calling ourselves tenors or
Exactly.
baritones. It's like there is a middle ground, and in at a in the longer in all in olden days we had something called tenore corto, or even like baraton martin, which is that classification of voice.
Hmm.
But it's I always say to directors and and conductors, or what do you hear me what do you hear me singing? What do you hear in my voice? What role do you hear in my voice? And that's how I approach the situation, rather than saying I can only sing cavaradossis and joses and these particular type of roles. It's like, or a baritone like Diego, or you know Rigoletto.
Wow.
It's
That's
just like it's no, it's just like you can. There's the whole plethora of roles that can be
yes. Good for you.
done. Well, I am thrilled to be here. I'm thrilled to be invited to this wonderful platform where you get to talk to the best of the best. So I am completely honored and humbled that you've asked me to participate in this wonderful show.
Well, you know what? Your career and your efforts with your singing have really demanded it, you know? It's not like it's a gift. You've earned it, and you've proved that you're right in there in the ranks with some of the leading voices in the world today. So I'm super proud of
Well, thank
you.
you, Daniel. Well, it's like I remember when I when you first heard me sing, and you are really the reason why I sing opera. So I give you a lot of credit because you're the first person that said to me, "Well, if you're willing to put in the work, I think you could have a good career,
Hmm.
and follow this new trajectory of life, which to me has been so fulfilling and truly, my calling. So I really have to thank you from the bottom of my heart, because without you, I think, in your encouragement and your support, I don't think I would have ever considered being an opera singer, or doing this as a career fully. So
Wow.
but yeah, like you said, the day one, it has a lot of, you have to put in a lot of work, and I could definitely say that um, I have worked hard, over the years, and to get to
Hmm.
where I am, and I'm still working hard, and I'm going to continue to work hard, because I think that's the key. It's hard work, and staying true to yourself. That's what makes the big difference.
So when you say staying true to yourself, what do you mean by that?
Well, I feel like I respect everybody's opinions and everybody's judgments, and people that are, I would say, perhaps more qualified than I am. But I feel like it's in the bottom, in retrospect, and deep down below, you just have to be yourself, and you have to feel what's good for you, and follow your heart, and you know follow your gut, in a sense. You really have
Right.
to be stick to your guns, and know what you can do, know what you can't do, know your
Mm.
limits, in a way. you know I mean, I'm not saying that people shouldn't always try to strive to
Stretch.
do
Hmm.
more, and follow that extra, that maybe that role. But I think it's like, you just have to be you, and you just have to um, follow what you feel is right, and not be skewed by other people's ideas.
Wow.
And
There you go. So when I was singing back in the day, I would go to an audition, and there would be like the director of the opera company said, "Oh man, we really think that you would be the perfect Don Ottavio, and you could come and do that with us next year." And then the next audition I would have, they would say, oh my God, you would make the perfect Otello. And I remember these things were so opposite. And I'm
Yeah.
like, how can there be no consistency within the community as on how they perceive what I'm doing? Do you ever feel that kind of equation?
I
Or
do. I feel like, well, I think there's so many parts to it. Again, this career, this the life of a singer is so complex. You're talking about producing sound with something that's flesh,
mm-hmm.
and technically, um, you know, I think if you if you just tell them, I don't think that a particular differences in roles. I think everything can teach you something.
Mm-hmm.
I always feel like I'm always willing to try something, and say, okay, so Othello, or that's in the completely opposite, parts of the spectrum. You're talking, from one that is, one of the hardest, most difficult roles to ever, for anybody to sing, like Othello, which only a handful of people can probably sing it in the whole world, and then
Mm-hmm.
something like, you know, Don Octavio, which is more in the standard rep. But I feel like there are similarities to the two pieces. It's just that you just have to sing them your way, with your own
Oh,
characteristics. You know,
bravo.
I feel like, even though, and they both will teach you things about,
Mm.
about your voice and how to sing. I feel I'm a very, very strong believer in kind of like the olden way of singing, which is, like, you think about Corelli and even Placido and everybody, like they sang every role. Maria Callas, they sang every role. It didn't matter
Yes.
whether it was Don Giovanni or
Yes.
Rigoletto. It's like, you had to be able to sing both, but you sang them your way. I mean, there's that famous recording I heard years ago of Corelli singing, Count Almaviva in the Barber of Seville in Mexico
Wow.
City. But again, it's like, how is it that a person that is in like the most dramatic, voice you could ever imagine, singing, something like Count on Almaviva, in Barbara Seville. But and when you hear it, he sang it his way. It wasn't like sugar coated, or it was his
Mm-hmm.
way. And again, it's like there's so many variables. Perhaps the soprano, if you have a big dramatic voice, sometimes, for singing Donna Anna or something, you may have to have a larger voice in Don Ottavio for Giovanni, and if you have, uh, an incredible baritone, Verdi baritone singing, Don Giovanni, you have to have some sort of a level playing field in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I feel like, that comes across. Like you just have to. I feel like if you're just singing it your own way and healthily, I think you can sing anything, and it would be good for you. It's good for the voice to be able to, have that pliability.
Bravo to
So
you, young fella. That's right
I've
on the
learned a
mark.
lot from you.
Yeah, and what not to do too.
Yeah,
Hey,
exactly.
so what you're talking about, I actually talked with Ben Heppner, who was a legendary tenor, who
Of
really
course.
had a kind of a lyric Italianate voice, but yet sang all of this Wagner stuff, which he was super famous for. And he said that he just had to be himself and not try to sound like a Helden tenor. He
Right.
just sounded like himself. And every once in a while, he would put the gas on and give a little more. But I think he called those the afterburners or something. But he
Yeah.
said those were only for one moment here or there. But for the most part, uh, you're never giving 100%
Yeah.
of what you
Well,
have, right?
and I completely agree. You just have to you have to pace yourself in the role. Depending on the
Mm-hmm.
role.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, very well that there's some roles that require like four different voice types. For example, you have a Carmen, a Don Jose. The first part of Don Jose is as lyric as you can get.
Yes.
So you have to have a Don Octavio there.
Mm.
That duet with Micaela and everything. That's as sweet as
Yes.
it can be. And the flower song is as sweet as can be. In a sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the second act finale where you're literally trying to paint, peel the paint off the walls of the hall with the incredible end of that scene, after you go through the mountains and stuff, and then at the end you have another very dramatic part. So it's here you have a role that requires, three different types of tenors, and
Right.
you have to and learn how to navigate, through it. And again, it's just learning how to pace yourself and learning and in a sense, as a young singer, I remember this director telling me that in order for you to sing an aria in an audition, you should try to learn the whole role. And I was going, wow, that's incredibly hard, because here you're trying to create your build your repertoire by getting work, and yet they're asking you to know five different operas on and it's because, again, each aria comes in a different part of the show, so and I think if you know how to pace yourself through the show, then you'll know how to sing that aria really well in the context that it needs to be.
Yeah,
So
definitely changes things.
it
Yes.
changes things. Yeah.
Wow, there you go. Hey, I noticed on your bios and resumes and etc., it refers to you as a Venezuelan Mexican American. Can you tell
Hmm.
the audience what that's all about?
Well, I mean, that's who I am.
Uh huh.
So
So, how
my
did that happen? Were you from
so my
Venezuela?
mother is from Mexico.
Okay.
So, and all her family is from Mexico. So that's my Mexican side. My father's side is from Venezuela, and all
Ah.
his family, is from Venezuela. So that's that side. And I was born here in the U.S. in good old Gringolandia. So, so that's the American side, and I feel, I mean, I guess I could say, for a while I refer to myself as just Hispanic baritone, tenor, whatever it was, and it's just I've been trying to find, like, what is the, because that kind of describes everybody. Okay, Hispanic is like, okay, you come from
Yeah. Right.
a
Right.
country
Right.
that speaks Spanish, and I grew up in Venezuela and Mexico. So for me, is that's very much a part of my identity. That's part of who I am, and
Yes.
so I like to give you know a little bit of an introduction of who I am. So I
Mm-hmm.
come from Venezuela. I come from Mexico, but I am as gringos can be as well. So and I think that kind of describes who I am in general. So I'm
I would
a,
agree with that
a
analysis, young
triangle.
fella.
I'm a piece from every part.
Yeah.
The international man of
Right.
mystery.
Eh, well, I wanted to get from your perspective what you think the phenomenon is with all of these kind of Latin American tenors and singers, well, mostly tenors that are so super famous right now. What do you think
Right.
that equation is? Why is that happening? Is it the language? Is it the music they're listening to? Is
I
it
think it's a
DNA?
it's a I think it's a combination. I think it's in the water over there.
Right. Okay.
It's I feel like I think, especially, I mean, if you're talking about Mexico in particular, I feel like there's a lot of amazing tenors and music. I mean, not even tenors, but like sopranos and mezzos, and
Sure.
Mexico is like a a treasure chest
Yes.
of amazing singers. They do have, and I think it comes from that idea of like, the rancheras and the
Mm.
mariachi music that is so intertwined, in the culture, in the sense like, like even if you're not a fan of mariachi or even or rancheras, you know, you can appreciate it because you grew up probably going to like a party or a wedding or a
Mm-hmm.
quinceañera or a birthday where in every party, usually the mariachi comes at the end of the night. And, so you're exposed to that in an early age, which I was exposed to. And the first song that I ever sang as a kid was a song by Jose Alfredo Jimenez, which was Ella la que se fue. And so
Mm.
that was one of the first pieces that I ever. So like I grew up singing rancheras. Those were the first songs that I ever sang, as a kid. That I as a solo, not on church, not in the church. And even though we were living in Venezuela, there was still mariachi. Mariachis. There's mariachi bands everywhere in the world. It's like
Mm-hmm.
the most popular musical style I think in the world, and you can go anywhere in the world and find a mariachi.
Isn't that
So
amazing?
yeah. So I feel like in the reasons why we have such great singers and especially tenors, I would say, it's because again, in mariachi you have to sing with a full voice, and you have to sing,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to cut through that orchestra. You're talking about full
Yes.
full horns, and violins, and viola, and I'm sorry, guitarron and guitar and everything. And it's a big group of people. So, and often you do it on amplified. So how are you going to get, you have to learn how to utilize your instrument just like an opera singer at an early age. So you start finding those ways of how do you resonate to make it cut so that you can continue, you can sing over that orchestra. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I feel also like in general, our culture, the language sits a little higher in pitch, than
Mm-hmm.
in America we have like, we sit a little lower,
Right.
in your
Right.
throat. So, I feel like in general Americans talk a lot lower, while in Latin America or any of the Hispanic countries, the pitch again of the voice is very high.
So
I mean,
would you say that they speak with more head voice and Americans speak with more chest?
yes, I would say that's a good observation to have. That we
So you
that
have like, "Hola, qué onda, qué pasó," which is
yeah,
like how you hear Placido speak, right?
of course, exactly. Placido speak. Oh,
Yeah.
hello everybody. How are you
Uh,
doing?
yeah.
And that's the way
Right.
that it
Head
works.
voice.
And when we're in America, we have a very low set kind of an instrument when we talk, and that's okay too, and so I think that's the difference, because I even see it like when I sing in Spanish or I do an interview or something, I may be doing the interview in Spanish and English, like, or like some sort of a video, and I say something in English and I it's down here, and then I say it in Spanish and it's like up here. So it's
Your
like
voice
there is a
changes.
difference in the pitch just because of the language, so you learn how to, I think, and also
Mm.
like having that, I think helps with the idea of like that projection, and that's why you sound more like tenorial in a sense, as I think because of the pitch of the language. I think all
Mm.
Italian's also a very similar language,
Yes.
you
Yes. I
know,
agree with you.
but I feel like when you start getting into German and English, those are more, or even Russian. Russians are really like, and that's why I
Right.
feel like you got all those Russian basses, that are all the famous ones,
Mm-hmm.
even our baritons like Vladimir Chernov and Borotovsky, they all have this very lower, because the language itself, Russian, is very like throat oriented. So I mean that's an observation. I don't know how much of it is true 100%, but I feel like it's a good idea.
I think you're dead on with that, at least from once again from my perspective too.
Hmm.
and I've sung with a lot of mariachi groups, and to hear some of those voices sing, their lead guys, and to be there, and their voice is bigger than mine, and I'm like, what the hell? That's amazing. But they've been doing it
Yeah,
for 20 or 30 years,
yeah,
probably started at a young age and intuitively found that way of support, of
hmm
resonance. And it's impressive. So
yeah.
Pilar and I were in Mexico City a few years back, and in a restaurant there, and mariachis came over, and I sang with them, and the lead guy sang, and I was like, "Oh my god, this voice is huge. He could be doing Aida or something like that, or
hmm
Otello. You know, it's
Right.
pretty amazing." So, hey, you know me pretty well, better than majority of the people on the planet, and you know my idol was Mario Lanza growing
Of
up.
course.
And matter of fact, I wrote about him in my book, folks, called Know You Know. If you get a chance, check it out on danielhendrick.com. Um, oh, by the way, I was contacted by a famous writer from Hollywood, and she's helping us to get a screenplay done of the book, uh,
Wow.
and helping us to make it into a movie. So keep that in your
Well, that'd
prayers
be
for me.
great. Well, if you need an actor,
There you go.
young Daniel.
I'm sure there's got to be a lot of singing and music in it, right? So you never know.
Yeah.
So anyhow, did you have a guy like with what I had with Mario Lanza? Any singer that inspired you? It doesn't even have to be an opera singer.
I mean, of course, you, Daniel. You
Uh,
inspire me. You know, no, not only you, but I've been very lucky that I've had the support of a lot of great singers out there. I feel like, in regards to, I mean, singers that I truly love to listen to. You know, obviously the greats all come to mind. From Pavarotti, of course, and Carreras and Domingo. I mean, Domingo, I feel like is one of the most well-rounded artists there are. And then,
yes.
as far as voices that are truly special, I feel like Corelli was a very truly special voice. You know, as far and also like I also listen to a lot of baritones. Obviously over the years. Leonard
Mm.
Warren,
Ooh.
one of my favorites. Um, Vladimir Chernov, who I had the pleasure of working with, and studying with when I was in LA. So I
Wow.
really learned from him, and also of course you Ben Hebner,
Mm-hmm.
um, and a very good, incredibly incredible person who actually I had the pleasure of working with, Bill Neal, who was actually Ben Hebner's teacher, and
Okay.
Clifton Forbes's teacher, and Jay Hunter
Wow.
Morris's teacher. So all those big voice
Man.
tenors, I got to work with him here because that's when I was starting, doing the transition, starting to do the transition,
So
and right before the pandemic, like,
you're telling the audience you're in transition? Is that what you're saying?
yeah, I'm in transition of between baritone and tenor, and like,
Oh,
well,
singing transition.
singing
Okay.
transition, not any other kind of transition. Uh, well, we're always transitioning through from one career, one
Hey,
career
I'm
one part of our
transitioning to a
career to another.
Mexican, right? So there you go.
Yeah, exactly. You're transitioning right now. So you're definitely gonna call you Pancho from now on. No more.
Exactly. Exactly. Folks
But
out there, Bernardo knows that my wife calls me Pancho. It's like my
yeah.
nickname. So
Because that's your pseudo name, but your real name is Pancho,
that's it,
not
right?
Daniel. But no, I'm like I listen to a lot of singers, and even like new singers, Charles Castronovo is great.
Mm-hmm.
I always find him a great artist to listen to. Pietro Bechala, wow, what a great a wonderful tenor, and a wonderful person. I mean, all these people are the thing is that when you have great singers, they're really wonderful people. Like they really are.
Mm. I agree with you.
I feel like
Yes.
the ones that are not as nice are the ones that are really. I don't even want to know, really,
Insecure, maybe. Insecure.
insecure, and whatever it is. But the great ones, oh my God, they're the nicest people.
Yes.
Um, and so, yeah, I mean, I feel like as a singer, I try to, listen to as many people as I can. And I really, I steal from them, parts of, like maybe parts of how I want to interpret this particular, one particular piece. I'll take a little bit of here and a little bit of Domingo and a little bit of, Pavarotti and a little bit of Carreras. And I think you piece it all together if you want, and you make a very complex, character, which is good, because everybody has their
Mm.
own opinion of how to represent a particular aria. And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I like music. That music is what I like, and I like all sing. I feel every singer, every interpreter has something to give you. So
Yeah, and you've been doing recently something super fascinating and unique. I think it's called Frida. It's an opera about Frida Kahlo, and you played the part of Diego. Is that right?
that's right. So several years ago, I got the opportunity to sing this particular role here at Long Beach, and this has actually created a wonderful opportunity for me. So it's a show written by Robert Javier Rodriguez, who is um, he lives in Texas, so he's a Mexican American composer and an incredible person. And he wrote this show back in '91, and this show
Mm.
has actually gone throughout the world. And it's it's not as the problem I think with opera in general is that works like these don't like, obviously they've only been around for short amount of time, not like Aida or or
Tosca, whatever.
La
Uh-huh.
Boheme or or Tosca, which has been having around for already over 100 years. And but I got this chance to do this work, this particular piece, and I mean, it's one of my favorite pieces of all time because Robert Maestro Rodriguez, he really intertwines music like in the contemporary style, but he uses a lot of the motifs from from pieces from you name it, from la uh, from Mexican folkloric pieces
Mm.
to homage to Mozart and Wagner and Tristan and Isolde, and you hear it and throughout the piece. Like, in fact, the aria that you're gonna play is the Communist National Anthem, originally, and he took the theme music, and he wrote it, in the context
Wow.
of the show.
I didn't realize
So
that.
yeah, so because what Diego's singing there is about art is ham. He actually said these words. Diego Rivera said, "Art was ham for the common man," and it should be that. In other words, art should be available for all of us. It should be everywhere.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I feel like even our founding fathers felt that was important, because if you look, for the longest time, even like a dollar bill. When you look at a dollar bill, it's like a piece of art. You know,
Yes.
and in the olden days, currency was used as a way to technically expose everybody in the country, maybe you lived in the middle of the Midwest, you didn't have a museum in your,
Mm-hmm.
city or anything, but again, a dollar bill, a $20 bill, had this beautiful artwork that you could technically be exposed to art. And that's the way that the Department of the currency here in the United States was actually. That's why it's so beautiful. We have some of the most beautiful, and other parts of the world has the same thing. It's like
Yes.
they
Yes.
make
Yeah.
beautiful money so that they can expose people to art, even though, like, on a way that is not, and you're, oh, here's a museum, like it's actually everywhere. We
That's
use it
awesome.
on
Yeah.
a daily basis. Yeah. So the piece that Frida is a wonderful, amazing composition, and I've been
Oh,
very lucky to be able to do the show already several times. Like several productions throughout the U.S.
wonderful.
So
And where is this production that I'm going to play right now?
the one, it's actually at Opera Orlando, which is actually the production that I just did last month, and we absolutely gorgeous venue, wonderful company, and sold out all the runs. So I mean, it was a really
Wonderful.
beautiful, yeah. And the hall that I sang is a true marvel of engineering, and it's a contemporary opera house. So
All right.
like,
Well,
I
let's
think the first one to be built in I don't know how many years. So
amazing. All
bravo.
right, ladies and gentlemen, let's check it out. Wow. Congratulations. That's
So
wonderful.
yeah, it's a great show, and it's technically
Oh,
uh,
let's pause a moment. Frankie just came on here, and I got to get him off the
ah,
iPad. Okay, let's go back to that. Bravo. That was
thank
wonderful.
you, Daniel. Yeah, it's a fun piece. It's a great show, and it's technically the life of Frida Kahlo. It's the same book
Mm,
that the movie is based. The movie with Salma Hayek is
okay.
based on, and so it's technically like a biopic. So it starts with her from as a young girl, like in La Preparatoria, which is kind of like the middle school, high school, and her first uh, she was exposed to uh, you know what happened in that time period in Mexico. Obviously, it's like there was uh, the revolution was about to technically happen, like around that time period. So there was a lot of unrest, and the whole idea of, like, children must have bread, the people shouldn't starve, and people were starving in Mexico, at that time. And there was this
Mm,
big difference in the classes. The rich had a lot and the poor had nothing. But it follows the life of Frida, and it's a beautiful work. And in this particular production, I got to work with um, Cecilia Violeta Lopez, who is an incredible Mexican soprano. And the cool thing about the show itself, it doesn't really require, let's say, a baritone for Diego and a soprano for Frida. or a mezzo for Frida. It actually it's a person that can sing from literally this roll all the way up to that particular pitch.
Wow.
And for example, because Diego has a low F, and a bunch of low A's, which is pretty low for
A
some
tenor.
baritones
Yeah.
or for a tenor, but all the way up to a high B flat. So
Wow. That's a big range.
and so it's a big range, and it has some very long sustain, like a sustained A natural that you hold for like 4 bars, for Diego. So it requires a big range for a person, or a person that can sing in that particular way. Um, so it's not particularly like a particular color. It's just like a singer that can sing that type of range. So, and
Which we
for
talked
me, it's
about
just
earlier, right? You're not putting
right.
people into categories like Michael Spires is really kind of broke that paradigm that you have to be one or the other.
Right. And I think in general, I feel that when as a singer, there's been a lot of singers that talk about this, where they don't limit yourself. Don't say I can only sing opera, because
Mm-hmm.
you should be able to sing jazz. You should be able to sing, you know. In my case, I love singing Spanish music, like
Mm-hmm.
ballads and boleros and
Mm-hmm.
romantic music. So for me, I feel like that's what keeps the instrument healthy and pliable. It's like Placido, he sang all these
Mm-hmm.
roles from all kinds of,
Yeah.
and look at him.
And would sing
He's still
mariachi.
singing at 81, you know,
Damn.
or as whatever. I can't remember exactly how old he is, but he's getting up there, and
Right.
um, and I think it's sad that sometimes we just limit ourselves, and we just put ourselves in boxes, and just say, oh, I can only do this. I mean, I tell my students that all the time. It's like, don't, yeah, great that you can sing musical theater, but there's a whole nother world out there
Exactly.
that you can have jobs, you can make money if you're just willing to take the do the work. It's all about the work. I mean, I do a lot of contemporary music, and a lot of singers hate singing contemporary music. It's not as they don't feel it's as gratifying. But I actually find it very gratifying, because it's almost like a puzzle. Like you have to figure out, like, what is the composer's intent? How is it structured? You know, how is this
Mm.
music structured? And it's mathematical often, or sometimes not. It just depends. And if you have the courage to sing that music, you will find roles that are so compelling. Because again, as singers, we're not just singing pretty pretty melodies. It's like you
Mm-hmm.
have to have the intent, you have to have the acting, you have to have everything that goes with it. And I feel like
Mm.
some of the contemporary pieces do give us a little more of that raw emotion of, like, an actor should have, as a
I
singer. So
love that.
you
Yes.
know
I was talking to Mark Sampson, who is the head of the Berlin Opera Academy. Uh,
wow.
he's a bass and originally from Canada, but he's got this academy in Berlin that's very, very successful for young singers. And he asked me, what do you think the next step is for opera? And I
Hmm.
immediately responded, acting.
Yeah.
I said, the day of just standing there like Pavarotti and singing is gone,
Yeah.
unless you're at that level of Pavarotti. Okay, you can get
Right.
away with it. But how many humans ever in the history of the planet are on that level, But for the art's sake, the next evolution, I
Yeah.
think, and I think these modern productions, well, he wrote it in 1991, but that are just coming now,
Yeah.
are helping to hear sounds and textures,
Yeah.
and I told Mark, I think it needs to be a little bit more Broadway-esque in the sense of the acting and the productions, that they're more entertaining for the public.
Yeah. Of course. And yeah, and again, with dialogue, more dialogue intertwined into the pieces. Like a lot of operas were structured that way. Carmen originally was structured with spoken dialogue. Obviously, Magic Flute is very famous. Written by Mozart. It's like is structured with dialogue. So, but I feel, that's exactly right. I think the combination between acting and really, taking the art form to the next level. Making it connect to our lives today, because essentially these pieces, a lot of them are political satire or political statements.
Yes. Right.
We all know in history, Mozart and wrote about especially the Marriage of Figaro, like was this political satire, like the Beaumarchais, who's the wrote the librettos, Beaumarchais, I can't remember, but anyways, that trilogy, the Barber of Seville, the Marriage of Figaro, and the Ghost of Versailles, those were they were political pieces. They were to make
a statement,
make people make a statement about the royalty and everything. And we all know Verdi had a beef with the Catholic Church for years. So
yes.
I mean,
That
so
was
again,
that was their version of Saturday Night Live.
it was a version of Saturday Night Live. How do we poke fun? How do we say what we want to say politically, but and distribute it to the masses, in a way that it's not like, hey, everybody, this is my opinion. It's like, they were very clever to write it and to do it the way that they did it. But again, it's like, the new pieces, and there's a lot of great new pieces coming out. And again, it's like as an opera goer, yes, we all love the Aidas, we all love the Bohemes, we all love the La Traviatas, but there's only so many times that you can go to watch a La Traviata, and the way that it's done, like, I mean,
you want to see something new.
You want to see something new. You want to, I mean, there's great works out there. There's one about the founder of Apple. There's one new pieces about, obviously, Frida's one. There's another Frida show, the last stream of Frida and Diego, that was written by Gabriela Elena Frank, which is another great work. There's the mariachi operas that I've had the pleasure of singing, two of them already, and those are incredible because they talk about about real life and about the migration, and not only just from Mexico, but like, I mean, anybody can relate to this because we're all essentially have moved or migrated from somewhere else,
right?
Yeah. And they hit on that. They hit up in the relationship between the family and they're true to people. So again, all these works are very important, and I think they should be allowed and explored and allowed to be presented, to the masses. So I feel like it's very exciting. I like doing new works.
I see that. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I have super impressed that you're doing that, and how exciting as an artist to be able, in some cases, to be like the next voice of that role. That's, you're establishing kind of the standard for that. Are there any roles that you haven't done that you would like to do?
Well, I haven't had too much opportunity to get into the tenor romantic roles that I really want to explore. I feel like I really want to do a La Traviata. I really want to do I want to do Tosca is my favorite show of all time. So I mean, like, if you were to ask, like, what's your favorite opera, I think it's Tosca and Rigoletto are my two favorites.
Those are two greats.
Those are two great. So I feel like if I ever get to do, like, I would love to do a Cavaradossi one day, and and again, Carmen was Jose. I feel like it's such a wonderful role, and it's so complex,
Mm-hmm.
and again, and then I also would love to do, like, again, a Rigoletto. Like, I think that role um, is. I feel like the music of Rigoletto is one of my personal favorites of all time, because I feel like it's complex, and it's
Yes.
fun. It's a
Mm-hmm.
fun show in general.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's just like over the top. It's a
Great.
but it's such a beautiful show. So I
Good
mean, those are
choices.
roles that I would like to, but again, they're like in two different genres. They're
Yes.
baritone and tenor, and I feel like I just have to get the opportunity to do it. And
Well,
um,
keep doing it. It's coming. Hey, do you have any advice for young singers coming up?
be creative. Don't feel like the world owes you anything. I feel like
Ooh.
I think I hate to say it, but some of the young generations feel like, well, I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
That's enough for me, for you to give me the opportunity. It's like, you have to fight for it. You have to be creative. You have to be willing, and so many people, you know, everybody that I know that is really, an amazing conductor, like Jorge Parodi, or they say that this to young singers all the time. It's like, well, you know, do you know how to make a website? Do you know how to,
Mm-hmm.
do you know how to put together a group of singers and do a concert?
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel,
So you have to,
some
yeah,
singers are just waiting for the opportunities to come to them,
to them exactly.
and it doesn't work that way. And even like just showing up to an audition, that's half the battle. But if you're always, a lot of singers go, well, that audition's, oh, I gotta drive 2 hours to go to that audition, like, or I have to grab a plane. You
Right.
know, well, how are you gonna get a job if you don't show up? The hard, the half the battle is that, and I
Uh,
know it's costly, and the idea that, oh, the pandemic came and it destroyed our industry, and there's no work out there, and the opportunities are, it's harder for younger singers. Like, I'm so, I mean, you tell me, Daniel, was it easy for you when you were a young singer?
right. You
I
know the
mean,
story.
people weren't just like throwing you jobs, like you had to go out there and get it, you know
Right, and it's not just the voice. There are a lot of ingredients. I was singing
hmm
Carmen in San Francisco, and I remember the Micaela came up to me and said, "How are you getting all of these jobs?" And I'm like, "Well, what do you mean?" She said, "Well, I'm going to auditions all the time, and I'm just as good as everybody else, but I'm not getting the jobs." And I'm like, "Well, there's the problem. You can't, just because you're just as good doesn't mean that you're getting the job.
right.
Did you network with the people? Are you connecting to them
hmm
in ways that are uncommon?"
right.
And that's what it takes. It isn't just going, I mean, if you are so prominently better, I said, than everybody else,
Yeah.
okay, then you're probably going to get more jobs. But even then, if you don't have the social skills to connect on other levels and personal
Right.
levels, because unfortunately, about a lot of it is who you know and who's going to
Yeah.
recommend you. Like my big break when I was singing Macbeth was from Jerome Hines saying, "I got a contract for you at New York City Opera. All you got to do is
Yeah.
go and audition." And I'm like, "What?
Yeah.
I didn't get that from an agent.
Yeah.
That was
and
from."
and often, I guess, I've really never really gotten any work from agents, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even have a general manager right now. I mean,
Okay.
because of the fact that I feel like I'm always trying to get, I'm always, out there
You are the
actively
agent.
working.
You are
I
the
am the
agent.
agent.
Yeah,
And
I
even
get it.
though, and people think like all the time, oh, well, yeah, I have an agent. Well, that's it. Like they're going to find me work and they're going to book the auditions and they're going to do everything for me. That doesn't work that way. Yes, an
Yes.
agent is wonderful to have someone to have an intermediary. So if you have an issue, the agent's job really is to be an intermediary person. So
Mm-hmm.
if you have an issue with a company, you have an issue with something, you can tell your agent, and your agent will speak for you. If you want. But in reality, the agent is just there to facilitate, a little bit of your career. You are really the product. You have to sell yourself. You have to go out there. You have to talk to people. You have to make yourself be liked.
Yes.
And I feel like a lot of, like I said, a lot of singers show up and they just, oh, I'm here.
Here I am. Here I am.
And even like I hate to point out certain things, but I've done so many jobs, and I'm there usually like between 5 to 10, 15 minutes before rehearsal, getting myself together, and some singers just show up like 5 minutes late, like everybody else. I mean, the
So
whole show, the
basic
whole thing
work,
started.
basic work ethics kind of
Yeah.
things. You should always be the first there and be the last to leave, kind of stuff.
Yep.
The Kobe Bryant.
Exactly. Yeah, the exactly, Kobe Bryant, the Pippen. He was also like
Yeah.
that. He was there, the first one there, like bouncing the ball on every part of the court, to see where the divots were and where the low spots were, and that's what gives you the edge. Because when you're at a particular level, like literally everybody is at that level.
Right.
Like when you get to a certain level of singing, like everybody's good.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's really good. Everybody's a great actor. Everybody's a great singer. They're all musical and all this stuff. So how do you make yourself different,
Right.
than the other people? And that's
Well,
where, your own unique self has to come through.
well, you have obviously successfully done that, and as a surrogate father of yours, I'm super proud of you, and just want to say kudos to you, and thanks for being on the show today, man.
Thanks, Pops.
Look how fast that went.
Wow, that was an hour. I can't believe it.
It's
So,
pretty cool.
well, I can't thank you enough for having me, and I'm really, like I said, I'm honored and humbled to be among your guests, because I know that you have a long list of people, that want to be on the show. So I'm extremely thankful to you for not only for all your undying support and love over the years, and really for being like the fire, the match that started it all. So I thank you again for everything that you've done.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, there we have it. Thank you again for being on the Daniel Hendrick Experience every Sunday. And don't forget to go to the website, danielhendrick.com, and pick up a copy of my life story of being an opera singer, losing my voice and getting it back, and all of that tragedy stuff that happened. So until next time, God bless everybody, and see you next time on the Daniel Hendrick Experience. Take